Mike here from Scuderia Audio, and today we're going to remove the center console out of a 360 or a 430. Now they're virtually identical, so we're going to remove and then reinstall the center console on a 360. Now the first time I did this I was really scared, but after going through it just one time you'll see that it's a really simple procedure and it only takes a few minutes. You'll need the following tools. You'll need a 13mm socket, a little ratchet, butter knife, a 17mm open-ended wrench, a standard number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a little wire cutters, a 4mm Allen wrench, and a tie wrap. Okay, well, let's go out to the car and check it out. Okay, the first thing we need to do is remove this little leather cover back here in the back where your sunglasses and such go. So you just get a butter knife and just try to get under it and gently lift it up and take it out of there. So now you'll see two things. One, there's a 13mm machine screw that you need to remove. Okay, so we'll remove him and all his washers. And then there's a Molex connector. You just, that little tab right there, you just push on it and then you just grab him and you just pull him apart. Okay? So that's that part. Now we move forward. The ashtray. So if you open this up, you know, there's the part where the lighter goes and then there's this little cubby hole change holder thing. Well, you just grab that with your fingers and just gently pull that out of there. And you'll notice there's a Phillips head screw down there. So you just put your Phillips screwdriver down in there and you back that Phillips screw out. Then you want to close this as much as you can and then gently lift the whole thing out of there. Now there's two connectors. One's for the cigarette lighter and one is for the light. You just remove those. And then if you look down in here, there's one Allen head machine screw holding the center console in place in this area. So you just get your 4mm Allen wrench. We got it in there to break it loose sideways. And once you have it broken loose, you can just, it's easier to just put it on end and take this Allen all the way out. Okay, so we lift him out of there. And then finally, up here in front, you want to remove these 4 Phillips head machine screws, but also there's a lock nut underneath this ball, holding this ball in place, keeping it from spinning. So you just get your 17mm wrench and you just loosen that nut just a little bit. Now you want to just remove the ball, kind of keep your hands under it. You don't want it falling off and bouncing and scratching something, so you just slowly spin it till it comes off. Then you want to do the same thing. You definitely want to put your hand in here. You don't want this nut coming off and falling in there. Okay, so then you start removing these 4 Phillips head screws. And when you've finished removing all of those Phillips head machine screws, you just gently grab this plate, lift it up and off. And then last thing, over here, this leather cover for the emergency brake, well, it's held on by a tie wrap. So you just got to get in there with a little, wire cutters and just cut the tie wrap and the center console is basically ready to come right off. So let me refocus the camera and I'll lift this off. Okay, now you'll notice that under the emergency brake there's this little black cover. Well, see, it's spring loaded. It's like a little trapdoor. I'm showing you this because when we go to lift this entire center console out, you're going to want to hold that trapdoor all the way open with your thumb and keep it open while you're pulling the center console up and over the emergency brake, because you don't want to scratch the emergency brake. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so now that we have the tie wrap cut, we can just grab the center console in the back, grab it in the front. Now there's this little plate here. It's a hinged plate. You want to get in there with your thumb and hold that hinged plate down in the open position, and then basically lift up and slide forward. You probably have to put this thing in first gear. You just be real careful. Keep sliding it forward, a little bit forward, but mostly up until that trap door back there clears the emergency brake. And then concentrate on the front and make sure the front clears the gear shifter. And that is about it. To put the center console back, you just grab it like before. You grab it in the back, you lift it up high in the back, and you bring it in, look down in there to clear the gear shifter. Okay, then you kind of set that down. Then you reach back in there and you hold that trap door open again, because you don't want to scratch the emergency brake. And then you just look through the hole and you just keep that trap door open, and you just bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. There's a point where you can't have your hands in there anymore, but it will well have cleared the emergency brake, so you can let that trapdoor go. And then you put it down there, and you just kind of sort of use this little reverse lockout plate as a guide. And also remember the Allen that you took out in the middle? Well, you can clearly see to align that hole in the aluminum with the notch that's in the fiberglass part of the center console. So you just set it down, and it's lined right up. Now that we have the center console in there and lined up, you just take your Allen head machine screw, just put it back in that hole, tighten it back up, now put it in almost all the way down, but don't really tighten it really tight, because remember, we have a couple more fasteners to put in. So now we go back here, we grab our 13mm bolt, put him back in there. The same thing applies. Don't tighten it really super tight, because we still have to put the gear shift plate back on. Now don't forget your Molex connector. Plug him back in. Push him back down. Okay, then we get our plate. Gently put him down there. And carefully put our machine screws back in. Now these, you definitely want to tighten these in turn. In other words, get the front one snug, then get the back one snug, then tighten the front ones a little, then tighten the back ones a little. Don't tighten just one very tight and the other one. You want to tighten them progressively. After these are tightened, you want to get your lock nut. thread it back on almost all the way down to the end of the threads, maybe a 1/4 inch from the end. Then get your shifter ball. Spin him on until he meets the lock nut. Then get your wrench ready. And then, you know, align your ball so that the numbers and the lines, everything are right where you want them, and then just hold it. And then just snug up that lock nut a little, and you're good to go. So, once you have the gear shift and this plate all tightened, then you can go back to your Allen head machine screw and just cinch that guy up. There we go. Then you get your ashtray unit and you plug the little single connector back into the single socket. Then you get your L1 and you plug him back into the cigarette lighter. Then you carefully just drop him back into place. Once he's into place, then you can open the door. The Phillips screw should be still sitting right there. Yep, then you just get in there with your Phillips screwdriver. Cinch him down. Grab your little change thing. Put him back into place, and you're done with that. And then finally, you can go back here, get your 13mm socket, and you can cinch this guy back up. Put your little leather cover back into place. Okay, the very last thing, we grab our old tie wrap, just take it out, take our new tie wrap, then just stick it in the little hole and just, you know, snake it all the way around. And just keep pushing the tie wrap through, and up, there it comes out the other end. You just pull him until he basically gets even right there. Then you just put him around. You tighten him up, not super tight, you know, just because you want a little bit of play there, okay? And then you get your wire cutters, cut that off, and we are done. Well, that's about it. Now, there's one thing I didn't cover while we were out there working on the car. What if you have an F1 and not a 6-speed? Well, it's even easier. Now, remember the 4 Phillips head machine screws that you had to remove to take off the little gated block for the shifter? Well, there's a similar block on the F1. It has a little reverse lever. Well, you take those same Phillips head machine screws off, you lift the block up, and then there's some wire coming out the back with a little Molex connector. You just pull apart the connector, and you're good to go. Okay, well, have a great day. Now you're going to need the following tools. You'll need a, that's not the right size, is it?